or four really hot ones, right? That they can either introduce you to or give you permission to drop their name. And when I saw that, I recognized there's cold calling, this is the fastest way to pipeline and at the highest level of credibility.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It is another week. Another week needs another episode of Leaders Talk. And I am Andrew Dupe, Chief Relationship Officer here. And with me today is Brynne Tillman. Now, Brynne is the LinkedIn Whisperer, and she is the CEO of Social Sales Link. For over a decade, she's been teaching entrepreneurs, sales team, and business leaders how to leverage LinkedIn for their social selling. Brynne, welcome. It's exciting to have you here. So tell us a little bit more about that and about yourself.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate being here. I am a recovering salesperson. I say that because, much of my initial career, I did sales wrong. I did the cold calling, and I didn't really leverage the relationships as much as I would have liked. Now, I did ask for referrals from my clients, but mostly I got this shrug and they said, I don't know who I know. And then I found LinkedIn. And what I recognized is LinkedIn gives me the ability, all of us, to filter and search our connections. So when I asked my client now for a referral, it's a very different conversation. It's Andrew, I'm so glad we've been able to help you do X, Y, and Z. I'm not sure if you know, but the way that I've typically grown my business has been from referrals from my clients and referral partners. I happen to notice you're connected to quite a few people I'd love to get in front of. Do you have 10 minutes where I could run these names by you? And you might have 15, 20 names and you go through them quickly. And at the end of that, there's 3 or 4 really hot ones, right? That they can either introduce you to or give you permission to drop their name. And when I saw that, I recognized there's cold calling, this is the fastest way to pipeline and at the highest level of credibility. So, when people say, well, yeah, cold calling still works, sure, but how much time are you investing in dialing for dollars when it may feel like more work, but it's much faster to conversation? Yeah. So that's what I do.
I can see exactly where you're coming from. I mean, that's why we're talking right now, is because of, back and forth LinkedIn connections that go all the way back. And I mean, it's really cold calling nowadays. I mean, is that kind of going out the window? Because our company doesn't really use it anymore. We use social media and leveraging and all of that. And many that I'm talking to, they've moved in that direction. So, I mean, do you think cold calling's dead or dying?
So I would say calling is not, cold calling is.
Right.
So warming it up, starting a conversation and providing value. I don't make any calls unless they're scheduled on my calendar, but I am having lots of conversations online. I'm bringing value and offering more insights. And it's incredible how many more, and this is what we teach. I'm saying me, but we teach this as well, right? And so when we make it social, and let's look at LinkedIn like an in-person conference, trade show, business card exchange. You don't walk up to someone and say, Andrew, we help businesses just like you. That's not how you ever start a conversation. So we need to treat people on the other side of the message the same way we would if they were on the other side of the table. And we need to earn the right to get that call.
Right.
Now, whether it's a phone call or a Zoom call, we need to start in real life conversations. And that's the goal. And it's not even the goal to set up sales calls.
Right.
right? Let's set up a conversation where I can bring you value. I can learn a little bit more about your priorities and what you're up to. And if I can share insights, even if we never work together, I am building rapport and a relationship with a targeted connection
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. So the question is cold calling dead? Calling is still really, really important. But when I call, I want people to be excited to pick up the phone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the old concept of pre-framing. And, anybody that goes back enough far enough in sales, or I mean, nowadays they even still talk about it, that, you want to, before you actually talk to someone, you want them prepared to actually know enough about you to engage with you and move closer to actually closing the sale. So do you think that social media is the new way of pre-framing?
So pre-framing is a very interesting term. I haven't heard it before, and it's
Okay.
but I love the concept. I think the goal of social selling anyway, and it's not all social media. There are so many other goals with social media, but if you're in social media to build a business, I think you have to earn the right. And you do that through being a resource early on. Corporate Visions did a study years ago it's not an exact quote, but the concept is 74% of buyers choose the sales rep or company that was first to add value and insight. I think I actually got it. That might actually be the quote, but that the concept is 3/4 of our buyers are choosing the vendor, the seller that brings value and insight. It's not price. It's not, are we the ones that are educating them and then are getting them to think differently about their current solution in a way that gets them to say, I want to learn a little bit more about that. When that happens, they don't typically shop that much. If you've been the resource that's led them to considering a solution like yours, you may be the only one they touch base with, because you've already brought value and insight, and they trust you. They've already had a test drive.
Yeah.
Through
Well,
your company. Yeah.
what things do you use with, like, say, a platform like LinkedIn? Because I know just about everybody's on it, but not everybody's invested in it. I mean, I know CEOs and entrepreneurs that still only have like 50, 60 connections that just never put a lot into it. What do you recommend content wise to put on a platform like LinkedIn that's going to get people interested in actually coming and approaching you and trying to get in conversations with you?
So I love that question. If I could back it up for 1 second and say there
Sure.
are 5 elements that anyone that's looking at LinkedIn from a business development tool that they need to focus on. The first one is social listening.
Okay.
Who's out there? What are they saying? Are they engaging? Are they sharing content? What's a priority for them? Who's my target audience and who's their target audience? All right. And we really need to hone in on what matters to our audience, because one of the biggest mistakes we make with content is that we share stuff that we think our prospects want to consume. Right. And often what happens, and here's a litmus test: if you're getting engagement on your content, but it's your competition, it's the wrong content. Right.
Right.
It's from our perspective. So our competition's going to love that. We need to put out content that leads to our solution, not necessarily leading with our solution. Because most of our buyers on social are not actively looking for your solution. Right. So we've got to move them toward it through being a resource. So social listening first. Next, value-centric profile. This is a landing page. It's not about your big successes initially. When you move down, it is. But first, it has to be about the challenge that you solve. And instead of beginning with how we help, simply help. So make it a resource driven. Instead of saying we do these things, just reframe it with here are the 5 things every entrepreneur needs to do in order to get to X. And they are the 5 things that you do, but it's reframed as a resource, not as a pitch. Right. And so that's the value centric profile. Because if they feel they got some great value from reading your profile, they know if they talk to you, it's well worth their time. You've earned that right. Number 3, content and engagement. There's 3 legs to content engagement. There's curating content, creating content, and engaging. Believe it or not, engaging is probably the number 1 area that you need to do in order to convert connections and targeted buyers into conversations. Now, we can't do that with all of them. We have these CEOs and entrepreneurs that are never even sharing. So there's other ways to approach them. But if you have targeted buyers that are sharing, that happen to be sharing content once a week, once a month, you have an opportunity to engage. And if you look, and I always find this to be so fascinating, there could be a CEO of, a $10 billion company, and they post something, and the only people interacting is their staff. And maybe there's only 12. And the reason is when they periodically share, no matter who they are in the world, they're not hitting the algorithm points, right?
Yeah.
It's not getting out there because LinkedIn likes consistency and they like people who engage. So if that CEO went out and engaged with 25 people over the month, maybe 1 a day, 2 a day, and then posted content, those 25 people are more likely to see it. So engaging is so very important. Obviously, curating content is a great thing to do to stay top of mind. And original content is a whole monster in and of itself and what to do. Number 4 is nurture your connections. We're all guilty of connect and forget.
Yeah.
It's like collecting business cards at an event, sticking a rubber band around them and putting them in the corner of our desk and never to look at them again. So we have to take inventory. We're out net new prospecting every day, but about 10% of the people in your network are people that you'd want to have a conversation with. So why don't we start there? If you have 1,000 connections, there are 100 people, most likely, that you want to have conversations with, and you're already connected to them. So that I think taking inventory and nurturing the right connections are really important. And number 5, which is why I teach LinkedIn for sales, is warm market prospecting. This is filtering and searching your connections to identify pathways to buyers and leverage your relationships to start new ones.
Because the whole concept here is that we want to get them off of the platforms that we don't control and on to platforms that we do control and content that we do control. Wouldn't that be the case?
I guess I'd want a little clarification on that. My goal is to turn them into a conversation, not necessarily a platform, but it's to take them from LinkedIn to starting a relationship, building real rapport as human beings. I don't know about taking them to another platform unless we're thinking about.
Well, yeah, that can be it. I mean, the platform may be Zoom. The platform may be that I want to make sure that they're sitting in front of me rather than just reading watching a video on Facebook or watching something on LinkedIn. I want to bring them into my network.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, that absolutely, that would be the goal. So what ways do we have that we can engage people more that make them more interested in actually talking to you? Because we've talked a little bit about the specific. Yeah. What content generally works with that? Yeah,
that's great. So I'm going to start with the engagement piece because this is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's make this a real example. Yeah. Andrew, who do you serve?
No, I serve my clients and my boss. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are your clients? That's what I mean. Who are they?
Yeah. Our clients, our authors, the people that are listening right now, CEOs, entrepreneurs, coaches that are looking to come in and get a book from us.
Okay. So you serve authors and entrepreneurs. That's
primarily. Yeah. That's our goal.
Who in the industry is an influencer that's already attracting the authors and entrepreneurs.
Oh, I mean, we have competitors for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
is there it's not even just a competitor. Is there like an industry expert on this? Like in my world, folks that are following like a Jeb Blunt or a Mark Hunter, the big sales, Shari Levitin, the big sales gurus in the world, they're attracting the same people that I want to talk to, but we're not competing.
Right. Yeah. There would be quite a few that would be in that
So
area.
an influence, let's call him Joe, the influencer Joe. So influencer Joe, who attracts authors and the people that you want to talk to, is sharing content a couple times a week. He's getting 60, 70 reactions, 15, 20 comments every week. He's a magnet for your buyer.
Right.
Okay. So how do we leverage this? Well, the first thing I want to do, I go to Listen Notes, which is a website that lists podcasts, but you can Google and go get another piece of content by Joe. If you have a podcast that they've been on that you've listened to and you think would be of value, now I'm going to engage with the people that reacted and commented. So I'll go, Tracy, notice that we're both fans of Joe's work. I recently heard him on a podcast on X, Y, and Z. And this is usually in a connection request. Now you may go, well, that's a cold connect. It's not really.
Yeah.
Right. And so now I'll say, if you are interested in the link, let's connect. I'm happy to send it to you. Notice it has nothing to do with me at all or my business.
Right.
It has to do with our shared fanship of an influencer, right? So now we share that piece of content. The next thing I might ask is, are there any other influencers in the space that you follow? Just a normal conversation. And we'll have a little back and forth, small talk. And I know sometimes people are like, well, who has time for small talk? It's a networking meeting. This is what we do.
Right.
It's a networking meeting. Now, because you've engaged, even in the inbox, and you liked her comment, or maybe now you've gotten engaged on some of her content that she shared, she'll start to see your content. So that's but I have a conversation going. I may learn. I noticed you shared a piece of content on X, Y, and Z. I've got some ideas for you around this. If you're open, I'd love to jump on a quick call. It's not a sales call.
Yeah.
It's not. I have some ideas for you. I've got some thoughts. It's not about prospecting. However, in that conversation, I may uncover an opportunity. If I do, I will never bait and switch. But I will say, I heard, Tracy, great talking with you. I heard you say A, B, and C. I have some additional ideas for you, things that we've been able to do with our clients that have really helped them overcome that same challenge. If you're interested, I'd be happy to share some of those ideas with you. And so most of the time, if you've done a good job of really bonding and learning, and you've done some great listening, so you're relevant to them, they're going to say, yeah, sure. And now you've asked permission to convert it from here's some free ideas and resources and thoughts to here's how we work with people. At the end of that, we just say, hey, is this something you're open to exploring? It's all permission based. There's no feeling, and they may go, not at this time, but I thank you so much for all of your insights. And then you nurture them over time.
Yeah.
But that's one way, one way to start conversations. The key here, and there are people going, oh my God, takes so much time. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
It once you get the hang of it, it's just a conversation back and forth. You're answering 100 emails a day. This is 3 or 4 a day, maybe 5, right? It's not a ton of work because it's quality over quantity. I've really focused in, and a lot of them won't even respond. And that's okay too, right? That's okay too. But at the end of the day, it's fun. You're providing real value. If it doesn't end up an opportunity now, a perfect example, I did this with, he's a, I don't know if it was a CMO or a CRO at a company. He's a CRO now, but I think he was a CMO, and I was engaging, had a conversation. Nothing really turned, it just didn't close. It wasn't right. He took on a new role at a new company, and within 2 weeks of him being there, they hired me because it was appropriate there.
Right.
But you don't give up on the nurturing the right people. And nurturing could be, hey, I heard another podcast from Joe. Are you interested? Right? Nurturing is not selling. It's building rapport.
Yeah. And that's so important. That's what I do every day. I love it. You just actually described my job outside of doing podcasts. So we're preaching to the choir with each other. But I do hear opposition to that sometimes. I've been in situations where some business people have said it is too much time for me because I don't want to go down these rabbit holes that don't result in immediate sales or immediate results or metrics that I can track. But you're right. If you build that rapport, things will happen over time that wouldn't necessarily have happened otherwise. So it's really about the creation of a partnership and a trust bond, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if you're focused on the right people, it can't help but to convert when the time is right. It just does. And that is the long game. The short game, however, are those referrals from your clients and your trusted advisor partners, your centers of influence. That's the short game. You have to play both.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of things we can do once we've built a relationship and a rapport. So we've gotten a connection with somebody. What are things we can do to keep a relationship fresh? What can we do after we've had those initial conversations? For example, just any kind of follow-up, because I know that is a fall down point with a lot of people. It's like, I made that connection, that connection's atrophied a little bit. How do I keep this spiced and keep it going so that in a year, if they do have a great opportunity, we can pursue it?
Great question. And I am going to switch the word from follow-up to nurture.
Okay.
So follow-up has such a negative connotation. Hey, Andrew, I'm just checking in. Have your priorities changed? The follow-up, and I understand it can be a very positive thing, but when people hear follow-up, it feels daunting. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. So we want to talk about nurture. Now, there's lots of different ways to nurture. 100% of nurture is around it being about them, not about you. It's about being a resource to them, not about a sales activity for you. And that's the mindset shift. I don't want this to be a sales activity. I want this to be a rapport building moment, right? Now, there are things that we can do. We could put out a poll and reach out to them and, Tracy, I've really enjoyed engaging with you as an HR expert in the ABC field. I'd love to get your one-click vote on a poll that we just put out. Once it closes, I'd be happy to share the insights that we glean from you and your peers. Okay. It's about her. I made her because she's the expert. Yes, I'm asking for a vote, but I've also put the poll into the inbox. Makes it easy for her to just choose. But the reason I sent it to her is because I honor her position. I can ask her, we've already talked once, I could ask her to do a LinkedIn Live with me. Or if you run a podcast, it's a perfect opportunity to interview someone. Right. But you could just do a LinkedIn Live. And it doesn't, if you don't want to pay for the third party, you could do a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live. I mean, an Instagram Live. It doesn't matter. For me, I focus on LinkedIn, and you do need to pay a third party to run a live. But it's a great way to nurture those folks. Yeah. maybe you get 15, 20 people that view it over time, but that's okay. It's also about it's more about building the rapport with them than even creating the content, but it's a win-win for all of you.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting your cake and you're eating it too. You're
Right.
producing stuff that you can use for other in other
Absolutely.
ways for both of you.
So, and I'll tell you, it's interesting over time. And we had this with one of our clients where they started doing LinkedIn Lives. She does them often, and she's interviewing people. And now she has inbound people asking the right people, the people that she'd sell to be a guest. Because they're like, oh, look, all my competitors are on her live. I want to be on her live, right? So, when you detach from what the prospect is worth to you, and you attach to what you are worth to the prospect, you will build true rapport. A relationship is deep, I think, right?
Yeah.
It may not be a deep relationship, but it'll be a respectful one, and one where you honor each other. And so again, when the time is right, you're the vendor they'll call.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. It makes almost too much sense because it's like, well, man, we should have realized that a while ago. So talking to people then that, this is resonating with them. Let's say that someone is fairly new to a new business they're going into, a coaching business, just as an example. What are the ways that they can now, kind of as we're wrapping things up, what are things they can do immediately to begin to leverage LinkedIn and see results quickly?
So you've got to get your profile together. So let's just say, and a little of the social listening, but once your profile's there, and the reason is if we go out and prospect using LinkedIn, all roads are going to lead back to your profile, and your profile has a job, right?
Your brand, yeah.
So that's really, really important. If you're starting a new business and you've had absolutely no clients, is that what we're talking about? Like zero clients?
Yeah, I mean, even that simple, but most of our listeners are probably way farther along than that. But let's break it down as simple as we can. Yeah.
All right. Well, so you still have a network of people, right? So, right. I'm assuming you have at least 200 or 300 people connections on.
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
let's assume it's someone that's pivoting to a new business, that's starting their own personal business, that have had their time and other places before, and have their connections.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the first thing, once you've done your profile, is you want to turn on the toggle that says notify your network of your new role. So you'll get probably not a million, hundreds of congratulations and reactions. Okay. Be prepared with a message back. Right. So, Andrew, thank you so much for the good wishes. I'm so excited to have launched my own coaching business. My whole life, I've been, helping people, whether it's corporate or, I'd love, if you're open, I'd love to jump, if it's the right person, I'd love to jump on a call, share a little bit about what I'm doing, and see if there's any way I can help you in growing your business. Now, that's not the same message for everyone, because not everyone's growing a business, right? So you have to look at each of these folks, and you could, and if you don't even want to call to action, even if you have, I'd appreciate, here's a link to my website. I'd appreciate your thoughts on that. You can ask at this point, when they're congratulating you, you can ask for your thoughts around that. Maybe you're starting with an ebook. Thank you so much for the congratulations. We recently put out an ebook that's really meant to help people, whether or not they work with me. If you're interested, let me know. I'm happy to send you a link. Ask permission. If they want the link, maybe they are a prospect, right? Like it's a little bit of a qualifier. And then, so get the message out, get it out, drive people where you want to drive them so that they get to learn more about what you're doing. The next thing I would do is a LinkedIn Live event, and I'd invite all these people and bring extreme value. And no sale at the end, but a little, just a little bit about, if you got value from this and you're exploring more, I'm always happy to chat. Here's a link to my calendar, right? Soft, starting conversations. I'm happy to chat at whether we work together or not, but you bring them into that LinkedIn Live event on a topic that if they're interested in it, it's a pre-qualifier.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
where I'd start. There's still a million more things. I like the word a million. There's like 5 or 6 more things they can do, but that's a really good start.
Yeah, well, that's just it. That's just getting that foot in the door. And honestly, again, ladies and gentlemen, everything that Brynne has talked about are things that we implemented at Leaders Press. Took us a lot longer. If we'd had your advice early on, we'd have been way ahead of the game. But yeah, and they did, and they worked. So saying that, and us definitely giving you our endorsement, how can our audience find you to maybe skip their growing pains and get right to actually having an expert in-house to help them get this done?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, they can start. We have a free public library at socialsaleslink.com/library. There are lots of complimentary resources and ebooks and podcasts. Will link this one to there as well. So you'll be like, oh, look, that's where I found her. But lots of things, socialsaleslink.com/library. And I'm on LinkedIn, so come visit.
Surprise. I was not expecting that. I thought you were going to plug your Facebook.
You do not. It's all grand.
Or your MySpace.
Yeah. No, no, my Facebook is all grandbabies. So you're not going to find much LinkedIn there.
Same here. Mine's all Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah, no, fantastic. That's really, I love it, Brynne. That's great information for our audience, and it's practical. And I love that you use the word millions, because if it's our experience, then millions are what you're going to find with this. So everybody take a look at Brynne, give her a call and have a conversation.
Yes.
Brynne, it was wonderful having you. We could go on and on, but yeah, we absolutely wish you the best in your endeavors. And
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.